Well, greetings everyone, and welcome once again to another Wednesday night show right here at the Sports Crib, home of the Sports Crib Network. Uh, as you can see, you can subscribe and donate here on our YouTube site at $ JEK3. All proceeds go toward our programming and the various T-shirts and things that we award for our fantasy league. I see we already have Dave there with a huge cup of coffee. Boy, two, two sips of that, and I'd be out by 6:30.
I'm ready to go.
Reggie, I see you're back and
Yes.
ready to go.
Absolutely. Good to be with you guys.
Yeah, hopefully Demetrius will be here soon. And usually that means it's followed by Mr. Scott. But Bo will not be in tonight, but hopefully we'll see him next week. And as we know, Bill is doing his draft show. But we had some interesting things going on in the sports world. And I guess my first question shows that I have on at least two pairs of black socks. Because during my era, this was not a problem. If your team beat the number one team in the state or beat your crosstown rivals or whatever, and you stormed the field and tore down the goalposts, other than, a few, minor bitching, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot to do. But then back in the day, we had steel goalposts anyway, so maybe that made a difference. Dave, I'm sure you remember those days.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, storming the court or storming the field after your team has that one upset victory in your whole out of your whole program is starting to become a problem. Now, the reason why I said I have on a couple pairs of black socks here is because of the violence that has erupted during these times, storming the court or now you don't even shake hands after the game without getting into an altercation. But, I also remember losing the game and the fight and having to fight your way to the bus, So, like I said, I realized that things have changed, but it would seem to me that if UNC Asheville were to beat Duke, I would see no problem with having their fans storming the field, cutting down the nets or whatever. Now, vandalism, that's a whole different thing. But as far as the celebration, the rite of passage, I guess you want to call it, or whatever. I mean,
The tradition of it,
Tradition. I think we're starting to micromanage a little bit too much. Dave, what's your thoughts on this?
Well, I go to a lot of Steelers games, and whenever back in '72 when Franco had the Immaculate Reception, fans stormed the field. A guy broke his ankle jumping down onto the field. Now, NFL games today, that doesn't happen. It just doesn't. And usually at the end of the game, the players from both teams, sometimes they'll have a prayer circle at the center of the field. They're having press interviews and stuff like that. Even the big games. So I've gotten used to that, where you just don't. You're not going to storm Accushore Stadium after a game. I mean, it's just they give you other opportunities to interact with the players. should it be banned? I don't like the idea of always, like knee-jerk reactions to and making a rule across the board. But I think what's going to happen, especially with the schools, becomes a liability issue. And like in the one game, was it the Duke player who almost got hurt?
Yeah, it was the
Yeah.
Duke player.
Duke
I
player.
think he got his ankle rolled up on or something like that.
And it was Caitlin Clark earlier. Caitlin Clark had a issue.
And so you have a guy that could have his career jeopardized by a significant injury. But then the other thing for the schools, it becomes a liability issue. So I think that individually schools will probably crack down on their own because it's kind of like leaving them open. Because unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, we're a litigious society.
Absolutely. Just took my line right there. That was my opening line for my comments. Dave just took it. Society we live in, guys.
But I rather than just having like a big ban, it's like I think it's a problem that should take care of itself before somebody gets hurt. Well, we've already gotten people hurt, but seriously injured. Well, in a crowd situation, I mean, all bets are off.
Yeah, there are certain conferences had their fines and there are repercussions.
Yeah, SEC has a fine for that. $6-figure fine for the SEC.
But Dave, do you remember when Georgetown won the national championship?
Yeah, with John Thompson coaching.
Could you see the floor after the game?
No.
Okay.
I think basketball is going to be a lot more difficult. Football's, I think, maybe a little bit more manageable, but because you just have a greater space. Basketball court, that could be a little bit difficult, especially in some of these smaller venues. But no, there's no way you weren't going to keep those fans off the court.
I think we had a similar incident when Bobby Knight, Indiana Hoosiers won the national championship also. When everybody was on the court, but like I said, 77, I go back quite a way, so so.
But I wouldn't favor an outright ban. I think that's. I just think it'll take care of itself, and there are unique circumstances like you just mentioned a very small school upsetting the number one school in the home. Like if it's an away game, well then they're not going to have hardly any fans there. But if it were a home game, let them celebrate that time.
I mean, and Kansas used to be notorious for it. I mean, it seems like they would celebrate if they beat Youngstown State, but
do you guys think that the amount of money? Because I was thinking, guys, that the difference between this environment and the environment of the past is just the amount of capital involved in these children and these kids and these human beings these days. These days, that's millions of dollars on the floor right there. And if things get injured and you get happy, schools are leaving themselves open to litigation for millions of dollars if any of these kids get injured. And if you have thousands of human beings storming anywhere, it just seems like a recipe for disaster from a litigation standpoint, in my opinion. If it's my school, we definitely do not put ourselves in these kinds of positions to run out there and get a player like a Caitlin Clark hurt, who's carrying women's basketball right now. Lord forbid, she had an issue, but it wasn't an injury. But if it was an injury, that automatically puts a massive dent into women's basketball. And all for what? For kids to run around on the court. It doesn't seem like the juice is worth the squeeze there from a money standpoint.
That's reality. That's the reality setting in.
Yeah, but like I see, when Swim Cash was kind of the woman, the face of women's basketball, all the way from her time in McKeesport High School. Every time McKeesport won a game, they stormed the court. I forget what school it was she went to, but it was. I just kind of looked at it as you had said earlier, Reggie. It's kind of a tradition, when
Definitely.
it's part of the underdog, that underdog mentality. We were the giant killers, so to speak. So.
Yeah, I don't know how you tap down that excitement from the student body, but I do think it's going to take monetary fines and stuff to kind of rein this in. And with us also with things just becoming more, because if you go back in the day, if we just don't look at this in a vacuum, guys, if you go to back in the day, society, at least from our standpoint of people as they're getting older, seems safer back then than it seems now. So I feel like if you had to. You could let your kid walk around back in the day, right? You have some kids walking from school. And when now that I think about it, what was I doing out here? Like I was running around in the streets. My mom didn't have to be home until the street lights came on. Mom didn't know where I was at until the street lights came on. I reappeared to come back into my house. My daughter, I would never have the same kind of freedom. Let my daughter these days have the same kind of freedom that I had then. So I think, guys, sometimes society changes. And I do, like Dave said, think this is something that's going to correct itself here at some point. Because
but even back in the day at the high school level, that James was talking about high school. Sue went to Beaver Falls High School, and in Western Pennsylvania, they played Friday night football. Well, they had to go to Saturday day football because of the Beaver Falls Aliquippa games.
Aliquippa, Beaver Falls,
and they would bust students, and they would be being rocked, on either side, and we're going back to the 70s here. So again, the problem is once you get a big mob of people, it takes on a life of its own, and Absolutely. It's not a. It's a very unpredictable one, and it can go the wrong way. So,
go ahead, Dave. While we have the moment here, let's get Sue's corner in. What did Sue have?
Well, Sue, I don't know. You might not. We don't have a Sue's corner tonight.
I was on a text message, James. I was ready for that.
She was going to talk about the court storming ban. She probably was going to talk about her experiences back in Beaver Falls, Beaver Falls Tigers, right?
I mean, you kind of did it for her a little bit, right? Like you kind of you brushed on it a bit there.
But I think from her aspect, I mean, just what she experienced as a high school girl, I think that. She's not a big fan of mobbing the stadium. She enjoys celebrations. She wants that.
But maybe just in the stands.
You got to draw a line somewhere.
Well, I spent 2 semesters at Newcastle High. And we used to scrimmage Beaver Falls and all those guys. As a matter of fact, we had a scrimmage against Beaver Falls when Joe Namath was a senior.
Nice.
And to show you the difference, I mean, like you could get drunk when you were across the line from Joe Namath. I mean, that's how many beers you probably consumed before the game. But no one brought a gun to a football game.
No. He used to hang out at the Blue Moon Lounge in Beaver Falls. That was Joe's hangout. Blue Moon.
By the way, Joe, man, that's amazing.
Yeah, and but actually, that football coach then that you played against, that was Sue's driver's ed teacher. He was famous. Joe named football coach. So,
oh man, like I say, hey, and when Jack Tatum was playing and George Atkinson, when those kids were playing in high school, hey, if there wasn't a fight in the stands, there was a fight on the field. But nobody got shot.
Yeah, well, anywhere that George Atkinson or Jack Tatum were running around.
I mean,
going to be happening.
But nobody got shot. I mean, you might get.
Yeah, they're wishing there were fights these days. I mean, going back to can you imagine that? Wishing for the old days of fighting. That's what we're.
Oh man. Okay. All right. Enough nostalgia. Reggie, as you said, seems like the enemy has finally found a job.
Yeah.
He's going to be the offensive coordinator at UCLA. Now, we kind of talked about UCLA last week when we were talking about Chip Kelly leaving, because 9 times out of 10 he was going to be fired anyway. The state of the program right now. But Reggie, is this a death knell for any hopes of Bieniemy becoming an NFL head coach?
No, I think more of a reset than a death knell. I mean, the great thing about sports, guys, is winning cures all, right? If he happens to come on somewhere and they start winning, the spotlight will start to shine itself again on him. The biggest problem is being under Andy Reid. It's a couple of things that Eric Bieniemy has going against him. For one, you were under Andy Reid. For two, they won a Super Bowl without you being there. For three, you didn't really seem to ingratiate yourself with the Washington players when you were there. And if you were going to pivot to a coach, then I feel like going from coordinator to coach seems like the most natural way to make that happen. So I think it's a little bit of a step back to go take a step forward, in my opinion. And if he's able to get a coaching job to where he can get some recognition for the accomplishments there, and a team starts to win, I think he'll have a shot, as long as his name is like in the conversation. You know, and we're still talking about him. So the worst thing, guys, is when we start speaking about him altogether.
What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, he's 54. You know, he still has, you know, plenty of time. I think you're fond of the phrase, you know, if you keep doing something over and over again with the same result, that's a definition of insanity. Well, I mean, he's tried the NFL route a couple times. Now he's going to something different. He's going back to the college ranks. He had coached at UCLA before. And if, like Reggie said, if he's successful at that, well, then that might open up some new opportunities. I think that one of the challenges that he has is it may be his demeanor and the way he interacts with the players. And it almost reminds me of Mike Singletary back in the day when he went to coach with the 49ers.
49ers, he had the same problem, right?
Yeah. But I mean, maybe that's something he can work on. And being into college, well, he's going to be in the middle of that with the transfer portal, you know, the whole new, you know, today's college football player as opposed to the college football player of 20 or 30 years ago. So that should be a good learning experience for him.
But, you know, like you guys said one thing that really, you know, is true. And that's that, you know, winning cures all. Well, UCLA is going to be a part of what, the Big 18, 90, or whatever it is. I mean, you know, and, you know, it looks, you know, to me that UCLA is going to be on the bottom of this tier for at least the next 3 to 4 years,
right?
You know, unless they, you know, so.
Great point. Are they going to be University of Maryland coming in, or like Penn State coming in? Penn State was able to adapt and continue winning. Maryland's had a real tough time in the Big Ten.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, Maryland was, you know, was one of those schools that primarily came in it for the money. I mean, we knew that Maryland wasn't going to, you know, kick any doors in. You know, it might kick a few tires, get a few upsets and whatnot. But I mean, this, you know, when you talk about UCLA, USC, among the ranks here in the West Coast, you talk about Washington, you talk about Oregon. I mean, there are a lot of schools that you talk about in what was formerly the Pac-12 before you got to UCLA. UCLA used to be among the elite. Number one, you know, it was that rivalry between USC and UCLA for the Pac-12 champion. I don't think UCLA has been Pac champion in your
life. It's been a while.
In your lifetime, yeah, I was going to say, you know, so, you know, if it takes winning to cure all, then that's not going to be Bieniemy's strong suit, I believe.
Man, that's rough.
Yeah, unless they're able to put up points, because he's not the head coach; he's the offensive coordinator.
That's maybe where being the head coach, not being the head coach, Dave, saves you a little bit there. You know what I mean? If your side of the ball, so the best time to be a coordinator is when your team has a losing record, but your side of the ball is amazing. So that's the best time to be a coordinator. So if nothing else, if they're scoring points, I hope that does it for them.
Yeah. This NIL thing, guys, a judge has ruled that the NCAA can't enforce NIL rules. In fact, he granted an injunction against it. We've had another judge rule that basketball players have the right to unionize.
Oh man, they're gonna hate that.
So, guys, is the answer to this for players to sign schools with contracts with schools and earn their portion of the school's profits, which I don't see the schools giving up. But what do you think would be a viable solution to this NIL problem, Reggie?
I feel like, so for one, I don't feel sorry for the NCAA for not. This is a problem that the NCAA created in of itself, in my opinion. Like if you had gotten ahead of this years and years and years ago, I felt like you'd have a better solution than you are now. Now it's a wild, wild west, and they're being dictated to. Like, so the NCAA could have dictated rules if they had gotten ahead of this years and years past, but they didn't, and now rules are being dictated to them now. I don't know really what the answer is going to be here, to be honest with you. I wish I could say, hey, well, this is what they should do. But it's a situation where I think the players are getting much more power. It's becoming akin to like celebrities in the NBA and NFL, where the player just holds so much more weight than a random athletic director somewhere. I can see the schools just acquiescing to whoever that player is and giving them whatever they need. Like, let's take a Caitlin Clark right now, right? You're going to give her what she wants. Are you kidding me? Like, you're going to give her what she wants. You're not going to let anything get in the way of her getting some kind of compensation for all the celebrity she's bringing to a place like Iowa, especially for all of the attention that she's bringing there. So maybe a contracts, but I do think, though, guys, there would need to be some guardrails of some sort. Something has to happen with this and the transfer portal. There needs to be some rules of some sort that they need to kind of come to. But I wish I was smart enough to say exactly what those rules are. I just don't know at this moment.
What do you think, Dave? Was back in the day, was it much easier? Just give a kid that car. Make sure he has he passes all. He's got a tutor for every class, and
and buy him a dinner or two back in the day, and that'll get you a student back. It's gotten the price has gotten a lot more these days.
I think nowadays, he hit a really good point, and the NCAA really blew the way they handled this. I think back to Ohio State when these kids got some money to get tattoos, and they were getting suspended and all this kind of stuff, and it was like that was over like hundreds of dollars, and the NCAA like came down like a ton of bricks on them. And so now they're paying the price now, and
man.
Now it's wide open. Now I know on the football side, I ran across an article where Nick Saban apparently he wants to help, because he's basically saying, hey, look, college football today is not what it was 20 years ago. It's a different animal, and it's not necessarily a better animal. And he's kind of offered, he doesn't necessarily have like a direct solution, but it sounds like he might want to get involved in helping. And maybe the NCAA or the colleges. I mean, Nick Saban's a pretty influential figure in at least college football. But maybe solicit people like him to get involved to come up with a solution that might work. contracts between the player and I mean, students have had contracts all the time. You have students that sign contracts to do so many things for their classes for grades. Well, they could have player contracts where, and it could include, well, hey, if you transfer, well, then we get this back, we get this back, we get this back, in order to kind of stabilize the situation. Because I think that's the difficulty right now, is it's just completely unstable. And how are you going to tell who your team is from one year to the next?
Yeah,
that's going to be really, really difficult. So I don't have a solution, but I like the idea that somebody like a Nick Saban is interested in contributing his time to try to come up with something that might make it more viable.
But Dave, during Nick Saban's first 10 years, all he did was call a booster.
That's all everyone did.
Yeah, I mean,
everybody's got their bag man. Call your bag man.
Well, I mean, again, I mean, if there was like an obvious solution, then I think it would be out there and it would be being worked. And right now there's not. You have court cases, so now you have judges making determinations. That's kind of driving it, yeah. And it's kind of chaotic. Really, and I just hope. I'm looking at Nick Saban not because he can call up his alumni to come up with money, but he's a very influential guy. Maybe there's some other prominent retired coaches in basketball and maybe some of the other sports that could get together to come up with some type of a solution. Maybe contracts is it. I don't know. Because then again, you have the law of unintended consequences, because you have a contract. Well, you have contract law. And then are we going to get caught up in litigation over, players trying to leave a program and then, they're being prevented because of their contract.
Yeah, I would just like to see them work it out. I think we all agree,
right?
I think we all agree that college players should get some type of compensation, considering all the money that's made off of them. But I think this might take a few years to work itself out.
Yeah,
we'll see.
This is not a new problem.
Oh no.
This is a problem that with the University of Pittsburgh goes back to the 1930s. Whenever they went to the Rose Bowl, Jock Sutherland gave some stipend money, spending money to the players that went out to the Rose Bowl, all like 25 of them, or how many went out there. And as a result, the chancellor, they basically de-emphasized sports. They said, we don't want professional athletes. We want student athletes.
Yeah.
And that wrecked the Pitt football program for like 20 years after that. But the whole issue was over compensation for the players. And that was in the 1930s. So this has been going on for a long time.
Yeah, and you're talking about like $15, $20, something like that for.
Yeah, I think it was. It was chump change.
Yeah, I forget what it was. I think it was something like $18. It was some very nominal amount that Anyway, it would be good to see how they finally work this out. Guys, then NFL raised the salary cap by 30.6 mil to a record $255.4 million. Reggie, how did this affect your team?
Guys, when it comes to having money to spend, like this and having more cap space, I really feels like it affects teams that already have a set amount of great players on their team. And it affects teams because more money is only as good as the people who are spending the money. Like if there'll be maybe more bad contracts out there, maybe more guys being overpaid. But for better teams, and this is a situation I feel like we're going to face, because if you look at our skill players, we have several skill players in positions that you can argue will want to be paid here. So it helps us in the future for us to think that maybe in the future we'll be able to retain some of these players in the future. But I think that what it does for most NFL teams is gives them ability to retain some of their great players. But if you're a team that's already bad with managing the cap, you're just going to be still bad with managing the cap. You're just going to have overpaid players making a lot more money and teams still not having the results that they want.
Don, how you doing this evening?
Hey guys, I'm doing great.
So, buddy.
Don,
Trying to find out this wind that someone brought us here in Texas.
What's that on your lip there, Don? Did you forget to? What is that?
Looks like he's growing it out, man. Got like a beard, something, a budding beard, goatee type situation there that's coming in.
Little goatee. Yeah, we call that in Texas. We call that redneck chic.
Don, I got a couple of questions for you before you catch up with the guys. But my first question, and coming from a winning program and Texas especially, Don, should storming the court or storming the field be banned?
Well, here's the thing.
Sounds like the used car salesman. Here's the thing.
Yeah, so some of these stadiums hold over 100,000 people. How you gonna keep them from storming the field? You can have all the law enforcement out there. Law enforcement will still be outnumbered. And what is the repercussions for storming the field? Do you forfeit the game? Do you get fined? You fine them. Say $300,000 for storming the field. Well, some schools they'll just write the check. Yeah, no problem. Some schools like shit, we can't afford that. So I don't know. I don't know if it should be banned. I think that if there's some misbehavior going on during the storming, last year Texas Tech beat us in Lubbock, and they stormed the field like they always do because that's what they do in Lubbock. There's nothing else to do in Lubbock. They actually pushed one of our players, and so when fans are doing that and they're drunk and they're using poor judgment. I think instead of just banning them, I think those guys should be, charged with assault. Maybe a ban from going to the games for the rest of the year or something like that. Make it something meanable. But just to say ban it, I mean, yeah, let's ban it. But how do you enforce it? I guess that's the question. Basketball is a little different. Basketball is a little different because basketball, it's a smaller field or a smaller court, and it's you don't have as many fans. But again, the other night Texas played Texas Tech, and Texas beat their ass. But the Tech fans were throwing shit on the court. They were throwing sodas and nachos and whatever. And they
I never liked that type of stuff, guys.
Yeah. The Tech fans got their team a technical. It's on YouTube if I'm going to watch it. It's those dudes are crazy shits.
So always good to have Don's opinion of the smaller schools there in Texas. Don, Eric Bieniemy finally got a job, but it's as the offensive coordinator at UCLA. Do you think this is the end of him becoming a head coach in the NFL again, Don, or in the NFL?
I don't necessarily think so. I'm thinking he needed to find a change of pace. Todd Monken went back and forth from college to pro to college to pro. Sarkisian has done it. It's not that uncommon to see, guys in the NFL go back to college, and go back. Look at Harbaugh. I mean, same thing. So I don't think it's necessarily disqualifies him from having a head job. He should be a head job. He should be a head coach right now. But there's a team out there that's going to have to take that roll the dice and take that gamble on him. But I think he'd do a great job wherever he is.
Okay, all right. Don, this NIL thing, and I know Texas is one of those schools that has plenty of money and can isn't really worried about the financial aspect of this, but we've had one judge rule that players can now unionize. We've had this other judge that just ruled that he granted an injunction against the NCAA. So, Don, what do you think is going to be a solution to this NIL problem?
Well, there's no easy solution because, as they say, the genie's out of the bottle, and there's not a whole lot you can do about it. I know that the NCAA just ruled the other day that when you have official visitors coming to your campus for their visits, you can't decorate their room. So they'll have
that'll fix everything.
A lot of like college gear, like t-shirts, hats. That some have cakes, a little cookie cake, whatever, with their name on it, and so we can't do that. And they're like, "What the hell? These guys are driving Ferraris, right?"
Yeah, man. Can't have any ball caps in there, though.
But, yeah. So it's like, well, it makes no sense. Of course, I mean, you can't have it in a hotel room. So what are you gonna do? Well, they'll probably just put them up in the dorm. You can have it in the dorm room, I guess. I mean, just. I'm thinking that in about 10 years, I think the Power 5 conferences are going to secede from the NCAA. They'll form another organization.
Yeah, I guess that is possible. Don, we were just talking about the salary cap and how it's been raised to a record $255.4 million. Don, how do you think that's going to affect the Cowboys or the Texans or both?
Well, the thing is, and it's people understand this, the unintended consequences. When you raise the salary cap, you're going to be paying out that money anyway. I mean, it's logical. So, the quarterback that was making, I don't know, $12 million is going to be making, $30 million. I mean, raise the cap, that's fine, but you're going to pay your players the same percentage anyway. So, I don't think it's going to have that big effect on the teams, really. Dallas will go and they'll pick out the next shiny object because that's what Jerry Jones does, and he'll say, "Yeah, I have two great receivers. I need a third receiver." Meanwhile, the offensive line's getting their ass kicked. But it's just one of those things. I think the Texans have been a little bit more judicious with their picks, and they're building from the ground up. Whereas the Cowboys, they're more of a let's bring in the next big thing and see if it works. If it doesn't, we can always trade it down later.
Dave, what do you think about this increase and how it helps the Steelers?
Well, with the Steelers, it eases things up for them a little bit. They, right now they're in the rule of 51, where they count the top 51 salaries. and that's what counts toward the cap. And then later on, when they get to their 53-man roster, they'll add the 52nd and 53rd player to it. So under the rule of 51, the Steelers are like about almost $9 million under the cap. But that's deceiving because that's current. And so then what you have to look is at the projected expenses, because you have a new draft class coming in. That costs money. You have at the end of the rule of 51, you have to add the 52nd and the 53rd player. You have the practice squads. You have to anticipate players going on injured reserve, and then also signing players during the season to replace those players that go on injured reserve. So when you add all those projected expenses in, practically speaking, their practical cap space is they're actually underwater by $9.5 million, even with this huge increase, which was about $10 million over the original projection. So, but again, the teams can be very flexible. If they restructure Alex Highsmith's contract, they can get $7.2 million worth of savings. And then they have Allen Robinson. If they release him, that's $10 million right there in cap savings. So there's things that they can do to come around. But for other teams, I think what happens, the short-term impact is there's teams like Kansas City that's looking to three-peat, right? Well, normally teams have a difficult time holding on to their free agents after they've won a Super Bowl or if they've gone deep into the playoffs, because those people that are projected to become unrestricted free agents, their market value goes up. And now they can go into a bidding war. Well, this extra cash is going to help Kansas City retain some of their players, I think, in order to go for their three-peat. Another team that might benefit from this is a team like Cleveland, who has their massage specialist with this guaranteed contract. Well, that eases that burden. There's other things that they can do, but it makes it easier for teams like that in the short term. But for the Steelers, yeah, it certainly helped. But they're still going to have to make some moves in order to have money left over to sign a new free agents, for example. There's some things that they'll have to do.
Okay. Don, the NFL committee won't recommend rule change when it comes to fumbling the ball through the end zone, but they do want to make a pitch for a new playoff rule to the owners. Don, what's your thoughts on this?
I think Don stepped away here.
Well, go ahead, Reggie. You can go ahead until I get ready, till Don gets back.
I don't really feel any kind of way about this. Like it's the new kickoff rule will be interesting. I never had the adverse reaction to the fumbling through the end zone rule that some people tend to have an absolutely adverse reaction to. I'm just kind of, it is what it is. I don't necessarily think that games kind of are won and lost just on that. If players can protect the ball and get all the way into the end zone, I feel like it's important that they do so. And other players have been able to do it all the way up to this point. So I don't like that a couple of guys can't hold on to the ball. They fumble through the end zone, and now we need a rule change. I think we were just talking earlier about knee-jerk reactions. I think that would have been one if we had chosen to do it. This doesn't happen a ton, guys, to change it, in my opinion. And the kickoff rules, I just got to see what those actually are. I heard they're looking at some different things. They were going to try to eliminate it altogether. I don't think that worked out. So I just need to see exactly what that looks like on the field.
Don, what do you think about that fumbling through the end zone rule? They said they weren't going to address that, but they did want to address new kickoff rules. What's your thoughts on that, Don?
Well, as far as fumbling the end zone, I think I've always been happy with that. To me, it shouldn't be that controversial. Just hold on to the damn ball,
Yes, hold on to the ball.
But now, as far as the kickoff, I haven't really kept up with the haven't really kept up with what they're planning on doing about that. You know, are they going to kick from the 25 now, or you know? I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's being presented, so I really can't have an opinion.
I think one of the rules was the rules of the USFL.
Yeah, so they were taking from one of the other leagues. They were trying to take their kickoff format, but I would still need to see that too myself.
Yeah, Dave, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I agree with the guys, and that's exactly what Cam Hayward said when he was asked about it. Don't fumble the ball. And then that's not an issue. With the kickoff rules, whatever they do, I'm just hoping it results in more kick returns. At one time, we just had Devin Hester get into the Hall of Fame as a kick returner.
That's a good point.
And they've neutered the kick return.
Right, not in today's NFL, right?
So. Yeah, well, I mean, if Devin Hester was playing today, he wouldn't be a Hall of Fame player, probably. And so whatever rules they make, I understand that these are being driven. The NFL says that safety is what's driving the rule change. But I hope whatever rule change they go to results in more kick returns, and don't make it ridiculous where all of a sudden every other kick return is a touchdown. They have to be careful in what they implement. I'm just hoping for more kick returns, but not a ridiculous result, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Kick returns, punt returns, those used to be that one exciting moment. You want to see that one kid break that, but some of the things that we've gotten away from, and once again, I think it's one of those things that we kind of touted up to player safety, but it's a part of the game, guys, or at least it used to be. So,
well, it was one of the biggest tests of individual skills. Can you block? Can you run? Can you tackle? And
it's also one of the reasons that certain guys made the team too, guys. There's a lot of guys who kind of earn their chops coming through special teams.
Yep.
Yeah. Reggie, the Clowns GM Andrew Berry proposes moving the NFL trade deadline to week 10. What's your thoughts on that?
What is it now? Is it week 8, 6? Where?
I think it's week 6 now.
6? Week 10 seems aggressive, man. If it goes from 6 to 10, I don't know. Maybe 8. If it's week 8, okay, it's 2 weeks. If it's week 6, I'm not really a fan, guys, of the constant trade talk throughout the season. I'm always happy to get that over with whenever it's over with, and get to whatever the teams are going to be. So I'm not really. If they moved it, this is not something that I would pass out over or die on that hill, so to speak. But it's I'm fine with them leaving it where it's at too. I don't think that's really concerning point in the game for me.
Dave, is it week 6?
I think it's going from, because it was the end of October this year, right? So that was around week 8, I thought.
If it's week 8 to 10 sounds a lot less aggressive than going from 6 to 10.
I think that's what it was, because I thought it was like November 2nd or the end of October was when the trade deadline was this year, and that would have been around week 8.
Well, that would be 4 weeks in October and 2 weeks in September, wouldn't it?
So for the last decade, it's been week 8 after week 8.
Week 8, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for me, I'm going to use Mike Tomlin's line. I don't know, and I don't care. They're going to set the deadline, and whatever it is, teams are going to work around it. 2 weeks. To me, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What do you think, Don?
You repeat that question?
They're talking about extending the deadline, the trade deadline. to 10 weeks.
I like that actually. I know it's kind of different, but I like the idea of seeing how different guys will fit in on their new teams that deep in the season. We have all these injuries that show up. You say, I need to replace my left guard or replace the tight end, linebacker. You say, hey, well let's do some trading. So I like that kind of.
Okay. All right.
So we covered the field. Reggie's not a fan. Donald is. And
you're like indifferent.
Yeah. You went to I don't give a damn. So it's good. Okay, guys, let's talk about some free agents here that are due to hit the market. And NFL.com listed these 15 guys as boom or bust free agents for the next coming season. I want to know if you agree or disagree. And I'm going to start. We'll do 15. We'll do 3 at a time. So, Don, we'll start out with you with your boy Baker Mayfield. He's age 29. Do you agree it's a boom or bust for him this year?
I think he's a boomer.
Okay. What about wide receiver Gabe Davis, age 25?
Another boomer.
Wide receiver Calvin Ridley.
I'll go boom on him also.
Oh, okay. You got 3 boomers there. Reggie, let's start out with Calvin Ridley.
Calvin Ridley, I think he looked pretty good last year. Did he have 1,000 yard? I think he had 1,000-yard season last year. Anytime you got 1,000-yard season, I can't see it. I need to see you fall off before I call you a bust. So I'm gonna go boom. He's still booming right now with 1,000 yards.
He is age 29 now.
Age 29. He's right. He's right there. It's not exactly as aggressive as the running back cliff is, I think, in my opinion. And another thing with Calvin Ridley, remember he sat down for 2 years. He's got 2 less years on that body than the average 29-year-old. He's been out a couple of years.
Gabe Davis.
I'm going to go. You know what's crazy, guys? If you play fantasy football, then he's boom and he's bust. He's both.
Yeah.
He's a guy that you got to put out there, unfortunately, every week, and he's going to break your heart. And then when he's on your bench, he's going to go off. So I have more conviction about Calvin Ridley due to Calvin Ridley being the number 1 receiver with Jacksonville than I do Gabe Davis. I need to see does he stay with the Bills? He's still at number 2 option, but I would. 25 guys is just too young to give up on. He's 25. You got to run it back with him.
Baker Mayfield.
Baker's an interesting situation because of the position he plays, guys. And when you see guys like Joe Flacco coming off the couch, man, you can be booming. He can be booming for the next 6-7 years. I mean, at this point, he's only 29 years old. If he maintains his being able to play in a competent fashion and put your team at least in where he's not losing the game for you, if he can keep maintaining that is valuable in the NFL, and he'll be around for a few more years. 29 is not old in quarterback years.
Dave Baker.
Okay, and I'm going to caveat all of these because a lot of it depends on who they end up signing with,
like where they go, basically.
Right, exactly.
Big factor for sure.
And that's my caveat. But with Baker, I'm on the boom. I've always appreciated his competitiveness, and 29 for a running back is one thing, 29 for a quarterback is another. So I think that he could be a boomer.
Wide receiver Gabe Davis.
I'm going to put him in the boomer category. He has youth on his side, and then it's the lack of expectations. He doesn't have as high expectations as some other wide receivers.
Calvin Ridley.
I'm going to put him in the bust category. And again, it's because he has, to me, he has much higher expectations. And to continue to perform well, he might be due for a downturn.
Okay, Dave, here we go. the running backs. Derrick Henry, age 30.
I have a bust unless he ends up in Baltimore.
Ooh.
Goodness.
Okay, well then I guess what does that say about J.K. Dobbins? He's only 25.
The next guy, right?
Yeah,
right.
They stock up on running backs in Baltimore, and I have him as a bust just simply because of his injury history, and he just has not proven that durable. So I have him in the bust category.
Okay. Tony Pollard, 27.
Interesting.
Again, where does he end up? So I'm going to put him in a boom. If he ends up in the right circumstance, I'm going to put him as a boomer.
Okay. All right, Reggie. Derrick Henry.
Yeah, man, this is rough. I feel like Derrick Henry, in the right fit, can really help like a championship team, a team that's like right there. I believe if you need a competent guy to come in and get you some yards, Derrick Henry still got that in him. But that's a massive caveat for me there because he doesn't really catch the ball. He's not like in the new NFL now where a lot of these backs are catching the ball. Doesn't really catch it. I'm gonna say boom with the right fit, but I would be leaning towards bust. I wouldn't necessarily be happy. I look up in either one of my teams, the Falcons or Steelers, have signed Derrick Henry. I'm not exactly popping champagne bottles. I'm not disappointed, but it'd be like a meh signing,
He can back up Spears. I'm good with that. J.K. Dobbins.
Can't stay on the field. I'm out on guys. Best ability is availability. He has not been available. I'm out on unavailable guys at any age. He's a young guy. He can turn the narrative around with a couple of good years here. But I need at this point to see those years.
Tony Pollard.
Now that one is the most interesting to me. I'm wondering if Dallas really moves off of him. If Dallas moves off of him, who do they go to? Because Tony Pollard was the reason they moved off of Zeke. So then 1 year later, you'd move off the guy that you just moved off another guy for. So who's the next guy that you have lined up there?
Jerry
I think they should keep him. I mean, I think Dallas should keep Tony Pollard. I think Tony Pollard's can help a football team. So I'm gonna say boom because I think that his skill set will help a football team somewhere, even though he did seem like he regressed a bit from previous year.
Don, Derrick Henry.
For several years, Derrick Henry's been one of my favorite running backs in the NFL. It's kind of slipped a little, but I'm still gonna give him a boom.
J.K. Dobbins.
He's not that old. I mean, but
he's
only
good.
25.
When he's out there, he's pretty good. Just being out there.
I'll go boom on him. Hopefully he gets healed up. I'll go boom.
Well, what about Tony?
I'll give him a benefit of the doubt and go boom also.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, Don, I'm gonna stick with you. Offensive tackle Mekhi Becton. He's 25 years old.
He's a boomer.
Offensive tackle Trent Brown, age 31.
Dave, he's been a pretty good player. But you know what? Offensive linemen, they last. I mean, they're pretty durable.
Yeah, they
so
played for a while, for sure.
Yeah, I'll go boom on him.
Okay. Defensive end Chase Young, 25. Just got that Super Bowl ring from the 49.
Yeah, definitely. He's booming like a mofo. Yeah, boom.
All of a sudden, Don shy now. He usually starts us off after dark. Anyway, Dave, let's go reverse here. Chase Young, age 25.
Young guy, but he's missed some games with some injuries. I'm going to go out on a limb and say bust despite his youth.
Ooh, okay. Offensive tackle Trent Brown.
That's it, 31, but some of these offensive linemen last a long time, and if he ends up on a contender, he could be booming.
Okay. Mekhi Becton. He's only 25 too.
Yeah, in injuries, and I'm not confident in how the Jets have developed them. So I'm going to say bust.
Wow.
All right, Reggie, your turn. Mekhi Becton, 25.
Mekhi Becton, I'm going to have a hard time moving off of a tackle at 25. I'm not necessarily endorsing him and saying that's I don't think he's played himself into bust range for me there yet. Not exactly a guy I can see that's going to play to 35, like some of the better linemen play for a very long time. I'm not saying that I foresee that in his career, but at his age, and they're respectable, at least in the run game in New York. I'm going to go boom for him right now.
Trent Brown, he's 31.
A little bit more wear on the tires there. Maybe boom, just because of the position. It's hard to find good offensive linemen, and so maybe because of that. But the same feeling I have on my Derrick Henry situation. We sign him tomorrow. I'm not exactly popping champagne, but I don't feel any kind of way about that signing.
What about Chase Young?
Now, Chase Young, I like. I'm gonna join Don here with Chase Young. Chase Young, I like because he's shown glimpses and his age. So add 3 more years to Chase Young. I'm moving into the David camp with 3 more years on Chase Young. At Chase Young was 28, I'm in the bust camp. At 25 for Chase Young, I'm in the boom camp still for Chase.
Yeah, I get that.
Okay. Staying with you there, Reggie. Defensive end, DJ Reader. He's age 30.
I like him. Boom. I'm a fan of Reader.
Okay. Jadeveon Clowney. He's 31.
It's interesting because similarities here to Chase Young, right? So now maybe because of his age, I feel like he's at the tail end of things here. I'm gonna say bust for Jadeveon Clowney, even though I do think that he can possibly squeak out another year or two of pretty good productivity. But I think he's on the back 9 for sure.
Okay. I think he has to stay with the Ravens. But linebacker Devin White.
I like Devin White, man. 26. He's a thumper. I like Devin White. I'm gonna go boom all day there. At 26 too, I didn't even know he was that young. It seems like he's been in the league a while. I like him, so I'm gonna go boom there.
Dave, we're gonna go backwards. Linebacker Devin White, age 26.
Yeah, he's some people say that he's underperformed, maybe because of where he was drafted, but 40 tackles for losses, 64 quarterback hits. I mean, this is over his during his rookie contract. I'm booming on Devin White. I think he can be a devastating defender.
Okay. Jadeveon Clowney.
I'm going to go bust. He's 31, but I think father time in his case may be catching up to him. And he's in a position where he needs to be able to move. So I'm going to go bust on Clowney.
DJ Reader.
Another bust. He had a torn quadricep, and I want to see how he comes back from that. I mean, a lot of your power comes off of your ability to launch off of that. So, injury.
Okay. Don Reader.
I'm kind of leaning towards bust on him.
Okay. Clowney.
I think Clowney he's got 2-3 more years in him, so I'll go boom on him.
Devin White.
Ooh. Well, okay, so I'll go boom. I'm gonna give him benefit. I'm giving some of these people benefits of doubt. So
Okay. Okay. My favorite three positions here. We got Stephen Gilmore, H33. Don, boom or bust.
I'm going to say bust.
Man.
Another corner here, Kenny Moore. He's age 29, Don.
Moore. I think he's still in the boom range.
Okay. And Eddie Jackson. He's 30.
I think he's on the bubble, but tonight I'm giving the benefits of doubt, so I'll go boom.
Okay. All right. Dave, Stephen Gilmore.
I'm thinking about Patrick Peterson. He was an elite player, but he's not an elite player with the Steelers now. So I'm going to say a father time bust for Stephen Gilmore. Doesn't mean that he can't play, but he's not at his peak.
Okay. Kenny Moore.
I think he is peaking, and so I'm going to give him a boom.
Okay. Eddie Jackson.
I think of these defensive backs. I think that they need a few years to really adapt to the defenses, and then they kind of hit a sweet spot. But then at some point they lose their speed. But age 30, I'll say boom.
Okay. Reggie. Let's start with Stephen Gilmore.
All right, and I'm gonna get out of here after this. This is an interesting group. This last three is pretty interesting to me because it pains me to call Stephen a bust because I really love him as a player. I'm a Gilmore fan, man. I think that guy's an amazing player. But 33 is 33, guys, right? 33 is 33. So I'm gonna have to call him a bust on age, but I actually like him the best in this group. Like of the human beings in this group, I like him the best by far. But he's also the oldest. As a human being, I like him the best. But he is the oldest human being in this group. So I'm gonna put him in a bust based on age, but I do have a lot of love for Gilmore.
Kenny Moore.
Kenny Moore, boom on Kenny Moore.
Eddie Jackson.
Eddie Jackson's my mad guy here. Where I'm just like, I guess maybe I'll take a page out of Don's book here and just give him the benefit of the doubt. But I don't have any strong conviction on him. I'll just go benefit of the doubt, boom, for Eddie Jackson there.
Okay, one more question before you go and give us your final thoughts there, Reggie.
Mm-hmm.
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Who did the Chargers let go?
You know what? I was hoping somehow we'd get to this question because it's so easy for me. Get Mike Williams the hell out of here. Are you kidding me? Like, if I'm looking at this group and I got to get rid of Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Khalil Mack, or Joey Bosa, I'm going to get rid of the guy who has trouble staying on the field. Mike Williams can't stay on the field. So it's easy. You're going to go with the guys that are actually playing the game and get rid of Mike Williams. It's an easy pick for me. He's a great player when he's healthy, guys, but he just doesn't stay on the field enough for me.
Well, Keenan Allen has trouble staying on the field too, but
he did. But I feel like Keenan Allen, once he gets on the field, tends to stay on it more. Mike Williams will stay on it and tends to come and play a few games every season and hurt himself at some point. And for any of my fantasy guys out there who knows what that feels like, if you draft Mike Williams in the draft, be ready to replace him at some point during the season.
Most definitely, most definitely.
To $20 million in cap savings too.
Yeah.
Oh, he's out of there, guys. What? No brainer. He's out of there.
You say he's out of here, Reggie.
Yeah, man. Get him out of there. 20 million cap hit. Crazy.
Sign you up at the nearest Nissan dealer.
I don't think he'll be in any bread lines soon, but man, let's get him out of here,
man. Final thoughts, Reggie.
Final thoughts are hoping that we get some more clarity here in the free agency situation, guys. Where is Justin Fields going every day is really starting to have fatigue for me. I'm starting to get Justin Fields fatigue. I really need to know where this man is going so that I can make my complaints and move on. with my life. So that's why I'm here hoping that we get some more clarity here, whether that's just conversation. From what I heard, a deal has been done for Fields. From what I've heard that the last couple of days, but I just haven't heard what the deal is.
I've heard that too. I've heard he's coming to Atlanta.
I have mixed emotions about that. I would rather, so when I look at the teams, my Falcons and my Steelers, I would rather have them on the Steelers because of where the Steelers pick in the draft versus where the Falcons pick in the draft. Falcons pick 8th. I don't know if Justin Fields would be drafted 8th overall if he was in this particular draft. So it's an easy pick for me based on what happened with free agency. But guys, I'm not going to complain about it. If Fields comes to the Falcons, we still have 2 years left on his rookie contract. He's due $31 million over the last 2 years, and that's a bargain at the quarterback position. So I'd be interested in seeing how that works out. But I wouldn't mind him on either team, but his statistics leave a lot to be desired, guys. He would have to improve as a passer.
Are they able to do a trade before March 13th, before the start of the new?
A lot of these are like handshake deals, Dave. Like I don't really see how, and you see this happen in the NBA as well, where you'll have handshake deals in principle.
So
but you can't really make
13th, it. He's signed.
Yeah, you signed that. You put your name, but you already start looking for houses and doing things, and that's when teams start scouting where you're looking for real estate. If you got a family, where's your kids getting enrolled in school? The stalkers start looking at your life a little bit.
Technically, the legal tamper period doesn't start till the 11th, March 11th.
Yeah, it seems like they steamrolled through that, right?
Supposed to be. What's that?
It seems like they steamrolled through that.
I guess Chicago could give a team permission, though. I guess.
Yeah.
And once we get more clarity on that, guys, that'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to that, and I feel like with every week we do this show, we get a little bit closer to some certainty here.
All right. Well, hey, Reg. Hopefully, you'll be able to visit us at the night that we do make that final. So, always glad having you on the show. Appreciate you, my man, and talk to you soon.
Take care.
All right, it's always a pleasure to be on. Have a good night, guys.
Good night.
Damon Woody scoffs at Russell Wilson's Super Bowl aspirations. He says that he's been benched by his last 2 teams. And, bro, let's get some stability in your game first before you start talking about Super Bowls. Dave, do you agree with Damian?
Well, see, for me, I'm biased. I've always felt that Russell Wilson was overrated, even when he was with Seattle. I thought he was more a product of the running back that they had there in the Legion of Boom. But if he's on a strong roster, he can win. I mean, he can. He's demonstrated that he can win. I just don't. I don't put him in the same category of quarterbacks that can carry a team. I don't see Russell Wilson in that light. So I think given the right circumstances, if he lands with a team that has a strong defense, a good running game, I think Russell Wilson can be very successful. But if they're depending on him to win the games, I don't see it happening.
What do you think, Don? Do you agree with Damian? Get some stability in your game first, bro.
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly. Russell Wilson, to me, is a second-tier quarterback. He's not elite, but he's in. I put him in that same category as Kirk Cousins, a good, serviceable quarterback, but kind of like Dak Prescott. But he's not going to get you to the apex of the game. He's not going to get you the Super Bowl. So, he had his chance, but so and I like Russell Wilson, but I have to agree with Damien Woody on this one.
Okay, Don, he's a Raider. That's what the Raiders GM Tom Tedesco told reporters at the Combine when they were asking about the possibility of a trade for wide receiver Devontae Adams. He also said that running back Josh Jacobs will not receive the franchise tag. But Don, maybe the question that they should have asked Mr. Telesco is, who is going to be the Raiders quarterback next season?
Yep, that's the $1 million question. Doesn't matter who you have in the backfield or who your receivers are. You got to have somebody getting the ball. So it might be smoke and mirrors. I don't know. Maybe they're trying to give distraction and before they go after QB1. Who knows? But I would answer that question first.
What was your thoughts on that, Dave?
Yeah, I think you hit the perfect question. And I think Telesco said he likes Aiden O'Connell, who's on their roster. And then they still have Brian Hoyer, I think, 39-year-old Brian Hoyer. But they have a new offensive coordinator, Luke Getsy. So it would be interesting to see, based on his scheme, what type of a quarterback do they want? Does this Luke Getsy want for his scheme? And is Aiden O'Connell the guy? I mean, he started most of the games last year, but I don't know. There's some free agents out there, and let's see what they do in the draft. But I think that's the perfect question: is who do they want to have at quarterback?
Okay, Dave, here we go. Any, mini, mighty, mo. Who did the Chargers let go?
Well, this was kind of interesting because I looked at the cap figures from over the cap.
I think all these guys are due over 30 mil, aren't they?
Well, I think Keenan Allen, he would result in a 23 million cap savings, 11 million in dead money. Mike Williams, 20 million in cap savings, 12 million in dead money. This is if they're released before June 1st. Khalil Mack, 23 million in cap savings, 15 million in dead money. And Joey Bosa, 14 million in cap savings, 22 in dead money. So probably they want to hang on to Joey Bosa because he wouldn't do their. I think the Chargers are kind of in a little cap salary cap situation. So, but I agree with what Reggie said. He highlighted Mike Williams, who had an ACL injury. And it's like, okay, well, is he going to be able to come back from that? And yeah, you would take a $12 million dead money hit, but that's the second least among these, and you still get a $20 million in cap savings. So I would say, even though he's younger than Keenan Allen, I would probably target Mike Williams to go.
Who would you let go, Don?
Well, I would say probably Mike Williams. I keep Bosa. I keep Khalil Mack. I let go of Mike Williams and maybe renegotiate with Allen. See if I can get him for a little cheaper than what he's going for.
Yeah, and they drafted well at the wide receiver, so they do have somebody to take Mike's place if that's even a little bit more reliable. But yeah, it seems to be a consensus. We'd all let Mike go. Don, the Bungles, they made T. Higgins the first player to receive the tag. Were you surprised at all, Don?
Not really.
What they need?
I think T, he had a very productive year last year, and he's a game type kid. So it doesn't surprise me that they put the tag on him. Not at all.
What about you? What about you, Dave?
I'm not surprised. One thing I'll mention, there might be a second one of those four that you mentioned that they don't re-sign just because of the Chargers cap situation. That's going to be interesting to see what happens March 13th. But with T. Higgins, it gives the Bengals more time to negotiate a long-term contract. And what it kind of does for Higgins, he's due $21.8 million with that tag. And so if he's looking for a long-term contract, well, that's probably the minimum what he wants to get on an average per year, on a 3 or 4 year contract. So it just kind of lays a marker down there for him. But what it does is it protects the Bengals from other teams coming in to try to negotiate them away, and it gives them some time to lock them into a 3 or 4 year contract.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. Dave, it's your time to shine here. What are the Steelers' biggest combine priorities? Should the Steelers let Mason try the free agent market or try to re-sign him? If we stay with Pickett as our starting quarterback, does the class of 2025 hold any better quarterback prospects? And James Harrison and Pat McAfee were talking, and James Harrison said the Steelers' standard is to win Lombardies. Dave, I turn it over to you.
All right. Well, I'll take these in turn. With the combine priorities, I would say center, tackle, probably help on the defensive line, and linebacker, and probably a outside corner. And the thing to watch during the combine is what players does Mike Tomlin or some of the Steelers meet with, because typically, especially for their higher draft choices, usually they meet with a lot of people, but usually the people they draft will have been people that they've met with. So there's, and among the centers, there's Jackson Powers Johnson from Oregon, Zach Frazier from WVU or two that might be interesting. There's like 320 players at the combine, but I think that those are the positions that are the biggest priorities for the team. They got a number of holes among their position groups that they got to fill. In terms of Mason Rudolph, no, they're probably talking to Mason Rudolph right now, trying to get him to sign him to a contract before he becomes a free agent. But if I'm Mason Rudolph's agent, I'm telling him wait until March 11th, whenever the legal tampering period opens, to see what other teams have to offer. And then if he gets a team to offer him, say, let's say $10 million, well, the Steelers have a decision to make. Are we going to match that to try to retain him or not? And already Art Rooney and Mike Tomlin have said that they do want to re-sign him. So from the franchise's perspective, though, they want to sign him now, because then they don't have to worry about an outside team coming in and offering him more. And because they're going to try to sign him for as little as they can. But if I'm Mason Rudolph's agent, no, wait to see what your true market value is. In terms of if they stick with Pickett, they say that 2025 is not a strong quarterback year, but that's when Shadir Sanders should be coming out. And then there's Drew Allar from Penn State. And he's kind of been up and down, but he's kind of a big guy. He looks like he could have potential as a NFL quarterback. But it's a little bit early. I want to see because if Kenny Pickett is successful in 2024, well, then the 2025 quarterback draft doesn't matter because they're not going to be looking to draft one of them. It's if Kenny Pickett fails that all of a sudden this 2025 quarterback draft comes into play. For James Harrison's comments, I watched his chat. It wasn't long. It was kind of like a remote interview with Pat McAfee.
Right.
And basically what James was saying is he sees that the Steelers right now are settling. They're settling for non-losing seasons. And he wants them to get back. Hey, we got 6 trophies in that back in Pittsburgh. And we got to get back in that mindset to go after more. And I think that he was trying to send a message. I don't think he was just, James is a matter of fact guy. He calls it the way he sees it. And I don't think that from his perspective, he's not throwing shade. He's just saying, hey, this is the way it is. This is what I see. And I think if you listen to Art Rooney's comments, it's like, hey, he's frustrated. They want to win playoff games. And if you listen to Mike Tomlin, he's frustrated. And I think that this led to a lot of the coaching changes, among the staff. And we'll have to see what they look like in 2024. This is going to be another very important draft. I think a big question is even if they did get a top-tier quarterback, do they have the roster to take them to the Super Bowl? And a lot of people say they're not ready yet, that they still got to build up that roster. Defensive line is getting older. They need a tackle. They need a center. And there's some holes on the defense that needs to be reinforced.
Don, I want to get your opinion on Mason. I mean, you've been watching him at least since he's been thrown to your nephew in college. What's your opinion on Mason? Should he test the free agent market? Do you think he'll re-sign with the Steelers? What are your thoughts, Don?
Well, I'm going to give probably some personal information here. So Austin and Mason are still – they talk every week. I mean, they're friends. Mason, believe it or not, loves Pittsburgh. He's has friends there. I mean, he loves the city, loves the people. It's no big secret that he had a troublesome relationship with Roethlisberger. Ben really didn't embrace him because he thought, well, this guy's here to take my job. Well, yeah, eventually he's not going to take it this year. I mean, but it was very kind of like Aaron Rodgers did with
Love.
With Love, yes. So there's that. Mason was doing pretty good until he got that concussion from
Baltimore.
Who was it? The Aggie guy. Well, when he got hit in the head, the helmet came off.
For Myles Garrett. From the
Myles
Browns.
Garrett. Thank you. Had a brain. I know he's a brain. I had a brain fart. After that, that concussion, he was kind of shaky. So he rode the pine for mainly 2-3 years, and then this year they finally said, let's give him a shot. He went 3-1, which it's not 4-0, but 3-1 is not bad. So I think Mason, because he hasn't played a lot, as someone who's in his 5th or 6th year, I think his body's still in good shape. I think he's experienced. I think he would be a good asset to whoever wants him. Now, is he an elite quarterback? No. He's not elite. But there are teams out there that could use him, like the Raiders. Mason would not like California, but I'm sorry, they're in Vegas now. Never mind. But we're talking about who's going to be quarterback of the Raiders. Could be him. So there are teams out there who could use some of the Mason's experience. I think deep down he wants to stay in Pittsburgh. That's just my thought.
Okay. Don, hey, as always, man, good having you here on the show. Give us your final thoughts.
Final thoughts. Well, kind of sports related, kind of not, but as you know, I've been working as the strength conditioning for the Southwest Legacy cheer team, and they just got back from competition, and of a field of 30 teams, they got third. They took a third place. So that work we're doing in the weight room, those parametrics we're doing on the field, I guess are paying off. That's my final thought.
Hey, congratulations there, Don. Good job. Dave, take us home.
Yeah, for final thoughts, just a different sport. I'm getting ready. The University of Maryland is going to be hosting the Big Ten Wrestling Championships, March 9th and 10th. So I'm really looking forward to attending that. I follow Penn State wrestling. They're really dominant. They've been a dominant team. They do have they had one of their guys, Starucci, who injured his knee right at the end of his last match. So we're waiting to see whether he's going to be able to wrestle. But wrestling is one of those sports where it truly tests your sportsmanship, both in winning and losing, because very few people. Cale Sanderson is one of the very few. I think he might be the only Division I wrestler that ever went completely undefeated through his season. Even Dan Gable lost a match in college. So it's a huge test. I know that Bill wrestled. I wrestled. And I'm really looking forward to it, because the Big Ten, those seedings, a lot of that is going to see, which wrestlers are going to be in the best position for the NCAA finals, which will be about a week or so after the Big Ten tournament. So I'm just really
Olympic hopefuls, Dave.
What's that?
Any Olympic hopefuls?
Oh yeah. I mean, with Penn State, you got Aaron Brooks, Starachi. You got probably 3 or 4 Olympic hopefuls, and then the Penn State also has a amateur club at Penn State, and these guys are competing at the international level. They travel around the world, and it's a super sport. A lot of people find wrestling boring to watch. I find it very exciting to watch, and but it's a real test, because you can't. At the end of the day, you can't point to a teammate. You can really only look to yourself in terms of the results out on the mat. So that's my final thought for tonight.
Hey guys, as always, glad to have you join me. Appreciate your time, and look forward to talking to everyone next week. With that, we should have some much more clarity on some trades and where some guys are ending up. And hey, until next week, you guys be safe out there, and have a great weekend.
All right. Take care.
Good night, guys. Take care.